Let's talk a little more about middleware. One little detail that I mentioned in the last lesson is that we couldn't visit our /home page if we were not authenticated. So I'll log out there and I'll try to visit my /home route and I'll automatically be redirected to my login page. But wait, in our web.php, this route is not included in our routes group where we are protected them by the authenticated middleware. So what is happening? Let's head over to that controller and see. So in the controller, right here we are injecting the middleware in the construct. Okay, so this is another way we can implement middleware in our application. So when we create the controller, we can protect that controller with a middleware, meaning any single method right here must be executed only if the user is authenticated. Okay, so let me remove that construct right there, and if I refresh and visit that page right there, you discover we can visit it without being authenticated. Okay, but that's not what we want, is it? So let's just put that in right here. Okay, so let's copy this route, and rather than it being outside, it's gonna be in that group. So if I refresh right now, obviously we can't find it. Why? Because also it's part of that group and the admin prefix is added to it automatically. So let's go ahead and visit /admin/home, and you discover it asks us to be authenticated. So let's log in, and also this button here is not going to work. Okay, so let's go ahead and update that. In our app.blade.php, you discover that we are hard coding the routes right here, and which is not really recommended because it's recommended to use the route method that is going to generate the path for us. Okay, so it means using this route method, if we actually migrate to production, it's still gonna make sure Laravel in the background generates the correct path. Okay, so let's go ahead and echo out the route. So I'll say route right here, and it's gonna say go to the home page. Okay, but if I go now and I refresh, you discover we have an error because the route home is not defined. But now why is it not defined? Because our web.php, this route doesn't have a name. Okay, so let's go ahead and format this route the way we've been formatting all our other routes. So we'll pass in an array and we'll say uses the home controller at index, and we'll give it a name. So we'll give it a name of home. So right now it has a name. If I refresh, there should be no errors, and I can visit the /home with no problem. So I can also visit the /create new post and this one. Okay, so everything seems to be flowing very well. We have our routes and they are protected by middleware. Let's take a little look into middleware. Now let's head over to our app HTTP directory, and in our directory we have a middleware directory and we have a kernel.php. So in this middleware directory we have encrypt cookies, redirect if authenticated, verify CSRF token. And remember our definition of middleware, we said we should just look at middleware at the moment as route filters. Okay, so every time we're trying to visit a route, we'll run the encrypt cookies middleware, and it's gonna say, okay, are there any cookies in this route, or are there any cookies set, or whatever it does, then we're gonna set it. Okay, so redirect if authenticated, it checks, is the user authenticated? If yes, then we have to redirect him right here because this page cannot be accessed by a user that is authenticated. For example, a /login route. Let's try to visit the login route. You discover we are redirected to /home. Okay, and we are redirected to /home because of this middleware right here. Because look at what this middleware does. It receives the request and it says if off guard, check. So it checks if the user is authenticated. If it says yes, the user is authenticated, redirect the user to /home. But of course, we don't have this route. So we'll modify this, and you go now to /admin/home because our route is prefixed. Okay, and redirect the user. If not, just return the next request. So just let the user continue doing what he was doing. Okay, so that middleware runs every time we actually try to send a request to our server, just like it did right now. And it works exactly the same way with our register route. Okay, but you see in this case it redirected to /admin/home because we edited. So if we try to visit login, that middleware is running. It checks if the user is already authenticated. If yes, then it redirects us to /admin/home. Okay, so hope that makes sense. Now we have the verify CSRF token, which actually verifies the CSRF token, and if the CSRF token does not exist in the request, then it throws us the nasty error we saw in the last section. Okay, so now in the kernel.php, this is where our middleware actually registered. Okay, so if right here we read the comments, the application's global stpom middleware stack. So these middleware are run during every single request to your application. So this middleware right here is in charge of checking for maintenance mode. Okay, so we can put an application in maintenance mode, and what will happen is that it would create a page that says we are in maintenance mode, and the middleware is going to check on every request. Is the application in maintenance mode? If the application is in maintenance mode, then it's just going to redirect to that page to say we are in maintenance. Please don't try to use us. Okay, so if not, then it's just going to let the request continue as it was. Okay, so the next thing we have here is the applications route middleware groups. Okay, so right here we have a web and we have an API, and here it gives us a clear understanding of why we have a web.php and an API.php, but we don't want to go deep into this. But just for a brief summary, we have a web middleware and we have an API middleware, and every single route written in the web.php is protected by this middleware. So for example, we make sure that we have to start a session, we have to verify CSRF token, and we have to substitute bindings and all of this. But for our API, we do not need a session, we do not need cookies, we do not need all of this. So we just need to throttle and do stuff like that. Okay, so we're gonna be reviewing that in a later lesson. But now for applications route middleware, meaning for example, the group of middleware that we just used, like the auth right here. You see, this middleware may be assigned to groups or used individually. Okay, so we assign to the auth, meaning that any user trying to access that group must be authenticated. Okay, and right here we have another list right here. Okay, so for example, we say if the user is a guest, do something in particular. Okay, so right here we have a list, and that's how middleware work in an application. So in our web.php, again, we are protecting every single request right here in this group, or every single route with the middleware authentication, making sure only authenticated users access these routes.